In my world there is music and good vibes and laughter and lovers, adventure and friendship. We know who we are.
Welcome to Be the Wellness Podcast, where we help you master your body, mind, and the experience of life through insightful conversation, interviews with experts and thought leaders, all with a side of marital banter and some good old-fashioned humor.
Yes, we are your hosts, Adam and Vanessa Lambert, and we're committed to helping you live life fully expressed physically, mentally, and experientially. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation.
Hello, and welcome everybody. Be the Wellness Podcast.
Do you feel so activated?
Activated? Because why?
Because we did the New Year quantum activation.
Oh, yes. My quantum field is completely activated. Yeah. I thought you meant maybe more specifically me.
Yeah, you.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, just your quantum field,
just my
not
field.
you. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because, particles, waves,
All that science stuff.
science words.
Science words. Yeah, we had our quantum activation this last Sunday, and it was so awesome. Truly, truly amazing. And I am so excited that this is something we're doing, something that's in the Be the Wellness world.
Yeah.
It's such a culmination of everything that I know in my heart to be helpful and true for people. So it's just, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite a little operation you're running. And I mean, to be fair, it's really you know, it's all your stuff.
Yeah.
I may help, smooth out some things.
You're the operations manager. Mm. You're the chief of staff.
Chief of staff.
Quantum chief of staff.
That's funny.
No, but we really did have a beautiful day. And for folks out there who weren't able to join us, it is on replay. And it's great because it's actually broken into pretty much like 1 to 2 hour sections. Mm-hmm. And you can go through it at your leisure or at your pace, and you can enjoy that full experience. So we know that, sometimes you can't take a full day to activate your quantum field. I mean,
right.
We get it.
You got to split it up.
But I really encourage folks to go in there and get the replay and get into this stuff. I mean, we meaning me.
You and the mouse in your pocket.
Party of me, myself, and I. No, I'm really stepping into, how do we really attract the things in our life that we want? It's not even a work smarter. It's like, how do we not have to even work for this? How do we just become this stuff that we want to create in our life? How do we just become the frequency of it so that it just is a reality in ourselves? And that is really what this work is about and what these creations are about. And I want to bring more of this stuff to the light, but, this one was the full 8-hour deal. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, I just really, from my heart, encourage you to get in there and check it out. Yeah.
And you can get there. We'll put a link down below, but you can also just go to our shop.
Yes.
And it'll be there.
Yep.
Called New Year Quantum Activation.
Pow. Pow. It comes with the sound effects.
It comes with a sound effect.
With a ringtone.
Speaking of sound effects, Vanessa's dabbling in another modality of healing, sound healing, which, when I say that, most of you probably think singing bowls. Mm-hmm. It goes farther than that, which is fascinating. It's super fascinating, but I have to say that I was not quite prepared for the vocal healing component of it all, and it's cool, but it's just like, if you happen to cross somebody practicing their vocal healing techniques on a street corner, you might think they were crazy.
Do you guys want an example? Should we give them a quick soundbite?
It's up to you.
I could scan you. I'll scan you.
Okay.
I'll give you a scan. Okay, ready? So I'll explain this to you guys, and we'll do a full podcast on this at some point. But yeah, this is super cool stuff. So basically, what I'm doing is energetically scanning Adam's body from his feet to his head on his right side, the same on his left, and then front and back. And if there's any deviation in my voice and the currency or the frequency of my voice, then we can kind of tune in that part of his body, whether it's energetic or physical, or maybe just some chakra work that needs to be done, needs a little attuning. So let's start on the right-hand side. Dude, you're
clean as a whistle. Dude, that's what I'm saying, man.
It's crazy. You're like solid.
Your sound healing's got nothing on me.
I mean,
or I'm perfect. That's possible.
I think you're perfect.
It's a possibility.
No, really.
That's
it was quite like crazy.
Yeah.
You really were like, even energetically, when I feel into your body right now, it's like pretty solid.
Yeah,
that 4 a.m. wake up is really working for you.
It makes a difference, man.
It does.
It's like it's a time for me to clear my head.
Yeah, and like your body, obviously, too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like if there's not too much stuff in your head, it won't eventually filter down into your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel like that works. When your brain or when your head gets completely full of stuff,
it
starts to like shift and like pieces fall out your ears and land in your shoulder, and then you're like, shoulder pain.
Well, you were like a bad example though, because like all the people heard me, it's just like a straight no. But anyway, when you really do it, sometimes people have frequency changes at different parts of their body.
Right.
But Alan, good old Alan over there,
Alan.
He's just too perfect.
That's funny. Okay.
Yes.
So speaking of cool stuff,
though,
and using energy of various kinds to do stuff.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about on this podcast today. Yeah,
absolutely. With Dr. Loretta Friedman. And she's just lovely and adorable and awesome. And I just really enjoyed this conversation. But, you know, what I love is that there are so many people out there that are innovating. They are taking the old paradigms and they are reworking them, and they are creating new techniques, new technologies that can really help people to solve their health issues. And I think that this is what I really like about her approach. And we hadn't done anything ever on breast health or really lymphatic drainage or any of that on this podcast. So I was really excited to bring her on and just really speak to that subject matter. You know, so many women have painful breasts all the time, have lumps and bumps, and they're not sure, or they are sure, but, you know, and then they just say, oh, I have lumpy breasts or whatever it is. That's just normal for me. But, you know, some of this stuff is maybe quote unquote normal, but can be improved or is actually a sign or symptom of something underlying. So I love that she really talks about how we can, you know, make sure that we're really giving our tissues the best health, and specifically our breast tissues.
Yeah, it is important stuff. And one of the things, and we'll get into this in depth in the podcast, but one of the things that I think is interesting is the bringing in of technology into this whole world. You know, and the lymphatic system is like pumpless, right? You know, it doesn't have its own thing. And you know, it's funny, actually. We've talked about this a lot, right? And like, this is a huge piece of like in our coaching programs and stuff, where we're trying to get people to move, and we're trying to do rolling, and we're trying to do all of this stuff to stimulate and move the lymph system.
Yep.
Because I've always said that the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pump. It has to rely on muscles and movement.
Yeah.
We had a client once correct me on that after like 2 years of me talking about it. And she was like, you always say this, but it's not true. There is blah, 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 that moves lymph fluid. And I was like shocked. And I have never been able to fact check that. Like I've never found anything that like matches what it was that she was saying. And so I don't know, like, I'm not saying that she was wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that like, if this is something that's going on, it's deep in the literature somewhere. You know what I mean? So anyway, for all intents and purposes, it would appear that there's no pump, but there might be something going on under the surface.
Yeah. And I think Dr. Friedman even agreed to that. Right. So yeah. Nonetheless, though, it's all about, just diving in and realizing that like we have a responsibility, if you will, to really be making sure that we're moving some of these fluids and moving some of these tissues and really like lubricating the system, if you will, so that all of the things are flowing in your body appropriately to give you the best frequency, the best, I was going to say osmosis, but I meant the best, what is it? Homeostasis. Yes.
Yeah. The best homeostasis is in fact homeostasis.
Yes, exactly.
My homeostasis is superior.
Is better than yours. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. We're getting this podcast thing down.
Yeah. Eventually we'll know stuff.
230 episodes. We can talk about things.
Yes. Well, maybe we should let Dr. Loretta talk about it because I feel like she's really got this stuff dialed.
100%.
Let's turn it over to the pro.
Okay. And we are live. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Loretta.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
We're super excited to have you because, so this is over 200 episodes of our podcast, but we've never really had someone on specifically to discuss breath. Let's try again. Specifically to discuss breast health, toxicity, and like what you were saying right before we went live, changing the conversation from, breast illness or breast sickness to really breast health. So I'm so excited to dive into this. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of your background, kind of get us up to speed on why this subject is so important to you and kind of what took you this direction.
Sure. So I am Dr. Loretta Friedman. I'm in Manhattan, New York. I've been in practice for 26 years. I'm a former operating room nurse, cardiothoracic, open heart, vascular, kidney transplants out at UCSF in California. So I have a very, very extensive clinical background, along with, being in private practice, again, for 26 years. I specialize in something called Directional Non-Force Chiropractic technique, which is a very gentle, extremely effective form of chiropractic. I utilize a natural reflex of the body, which is a leg check, to identify where there's nerve interference, bones out of place, what we call subluxations, so I can correct them. And not only do I look at the osseous or the bony component, but all the surrounding soft tissue, the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, and the discs. It's the discs that give people the pain relief and the extra holding power to maintain their adjustments for a much longer period of time. So I fix people. What I do in 6 visits, traditional chiropractic can't achieve in 70 or 80 visits. Truthfully, hand to God, you can't. This is such an amazing chiropractic technique. And that's what drove me to what it is that I do today, because patients weren't necessarily responding as well as I thought they should. Now, I knew what the power of this technique was, and it's not me, but the technique is fabulous. And I can correct a disc, I can correct the subluxation, I can get rid of all kinds of aches and pains and sciatica and things that nobody else can even achieve. But yet some people were just slow to come to that recovery. And it bothered me. It just irked me. I'm like, I don't understand. Why is this inflammation still hanging out? Why is the, this disc swollen and the swelling isn't, leaving it or mitigating? And they're not getting as better as they could, as fast as they could. And I started talking to people, and I was dealing with a vendor at the time, very nice woman from New Jersey who liked to come and sit and chat with me during the afternoon sometimes. She gets tired of walking around, and she'd come and hang out with me for a little bit. And she told me about this what do you call it? Fair, that she went to. And
like a health
there was a
fair.
vendor. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like where all the
trade
different
show.
products.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Trade show. Thank you so much. Trade show. And there was this vendor who was showing how to move lymphatic fluid through the body. I'm like, wow. I said, that's really interesting. And I got the information and I contacted the company. And a few months later, I was on a plane to South Dakota for a week in like January or February. The only thing worse than South Dakota in January and February is North Dakota in January or February. Because there's nothing going on there. Oh my God. And food, horrible. They pour cheese on everything. I've never ever seen anything like that in my life. But I went down there for a week and I learned all about the lymphatic system, and I learned all about how the lymph can get stagnant and get blocked and doesn't move. And I came back to New York, and because I had a musculoskeletal practice, I started working on my disc patients. So somebody would come in with a hot disc and it was all swollen and inflamed. And I would not only adjust them, but I started doing lymphatic drainage on the area, on the involved area. And you know what? They responded. They started getting better, faster. So somebody comes in and they're hunched over and they can't even straighten up. And on Tuesday and by Friday, they're walking out of the office saying, thanks, doc. You know what I mean? Really appreciate the help. I mean, that's an amazing feat.
Of course.
So I did that for many, many, many years on the down low. I also saw cancer patients from time to time. People would find out that I was doing lymphatic drainage, and I was working with lymphedema patients. Lymphedema are those people that you see with an enlarged arm, maybe after a woman has had a mastectomy or some sort of breast surgery, or somebody who has a big leg or a large ankle or something like that, because they have some sort of blockage or stagnation going on. Most of the time, it's what we call insidious, which means it just happens. They don't really know why or what causes it. It just occurs. So I started wondering, insidious, why does it happen? There's got to be some cause. There's got to be some reason that this is going on. And I started talking to people, and I started working with a variety of different types of patients. And what I began to realize was that the lymph system is affected by toxicity, that the toxins that get into our body are causing blockages and stagnation of the lymphatic fluid. So if you imagine that the lymph is neutral like water, okay, and you have these toxins, which are like free radicals running around, and they're looking for something to quell the outermost electron, something to satisfy them that they can hang on to, and then they can sort of just move, effortlessly, through the body. So that's what happens with toxicity. And I started talking to people about how these toxins, I think, are, accumulating in women's breast tissue. And this is what lends itself to cancers and autoimmune diseases. And everybody looked at me like I had 6 heads. So, I went on, it didn't faze me. I kind of beat to my own drum, anyway.
We love that about you.
Right. So
yeah,
I continued working with, cancer patients, with lymphoma patients, with women and men who had lymphedema at different parts of the body. And the thing is that because this literally, the oscillating frequency, the 3-part light wave that gets emitted from the glass tube causes a peristaltic, causes a squeezing motion of the lymph fluid. So the lymph gets squeezed, but the oscillating frequency is what literally helps to cleave the toxins off the lymph. So it's like chop, 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 and the toxins start to move through the ducts. So they get released through the urine and the feces the way they're supposed to, and they get eliminated from the body, and the lymph starts moving on its own as the toxins start getting removed from them. So I started combining. Yes.
Just quick clarifying question here. When you talk about toxins, I think any of us could sort of input what we think that means, but I'd love for you to just clarify. What do you mean by toxins?
Okay. So, toxins, we live in a very toxic world. Okay. So the potential for toxic exposure is huge. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food supply, it all has toxins in them. And these toxins cause all kinds of disruptions in the body. So what happens is that the toxins for women get stored in our breast tissue, which is fatty tissue, which is mostly lymphoid tissue. And for men, I believe that the toxins get stored in their prostates. This is why all prostates, if men lived long enough, if something else didn't kill them, they'd all die of prostate cancer. And the problem is that men are having prostate cancer at younger and younger ages. This is the problem. So because the environment is becoming so toxic, and these endocrine disruptors that get caused by drugs and get caused by antibiotics and get caused by steroids and get caused by hormones that are all around us, they get into our system. Even plastic, the plastic bottles, little pieces of plastic are, getting into our bodies as we're drinking it. This is, this is what happens. So, and our body doesn't have any way of eliminating these things if the lymph system is being blocked and stagnated. Literally, it just like puts up a wall. So the lymph is what delivers the immune response. So when you have a sprained ankle, or you have a laceration, or you have an illness like COVID, okay, it's the lymph that arrives like the cavalry to mitigate whatever it is that's going on. It tries to stop and limit whatever the damage is. So your ankle swells up like an orange or a grapefruit. So you can't walk on it, and you can't weight bear on it, and it hurts to move. That's really the innate intelligence of the body telling you, don't do that. We have to let this heal now. Don't move it too much. And when that swelling and inflammation goes away, your ankle is healed. When it doesn't go away after 4 to 6 weeks, after 8 weeks and 10 weeks, your ankle is still swollen and the fluid is still in the tissue. That's lymphedema. That's a problem. And that person has some sort of toxicity in their bodies that is not allowing that lymph fluid to drain properly. So, it's not that difficult. It's not that hard to, sort of figure out, but the medical profession misses this all the time. So I can't tell you how many people walk around with lymphedema for years, and they were never diagnosed properly. They were never, given a proper treatment or protocols or anything that they could do. Doctors are like, yeah, I don't know, not sure.
Yeah. You got a big leg now. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I'm curious what, because the lymph system's kind of a oddball, in as far as systems go, because and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't really have any ability for, like you said, peristalsis. Like it has no intrinsic muscle tone that's going to keep things moving.
Has no pump.
Right?
Right, has no pump. Has no right.
So it's relying on movement, right? The body's general movement of walking and doing all of this kind of stuff to keep the juices flowing. Is that
correct? Right? Absolutely correct. You're right.
Yeah. And so I'm curious how this. Environmental toxins, all of the stuff that's going on. We just kind of hit this point of overload with it. And that's probably made worse to some degree by a relatively sedentary lifestyle, right? So we just have like all of this stuff building up and less movement. And so this therapy that you're talking about being able to do is essentially a light therapy, right? Is what I'm grasping. And
this is an electrostatic charge that gets emitted from a light source. So in the glass tube are 3 noble gases. And when you add electricity, when you turn the switch on, these gases emit an electrostatic charge. So you know how you walk on a carpet, you drag your feet, you go to touch something, and you get that little spark. That's an electrostatic charge. That's what gets emitted without the spark. So you don't feel anything. You don't, unless you touch metal. And then if you touch metal, you want to jump off the table. But we try not to do that.
Right.
They only do it once. I'll put it that way. Yeah. The patient only does it once. They never do it again. Yeah.
So, and is this something that's applied locally to the place that like it has swelling, or is this something that you do sort of systemically to sort of get just the whole system flowing?
It all depends on where the lymphedema is. So I have been seeing, it's interesting that you say that, because I have been seeing more and more patients who have systemic lymphedema. They have swelling all over. I had this 20-year-old who tracked me down from Ohio and came to New York for a week. And she's not the only one, but she came for a week. She spoke to me on the phone because I talk to everybody. If there's anybody who comes into the office that I haven't had a conversation with to find out what's going on with them, and if I'm the right person for them to see. And if I'm not, I try to send them to somebody, that is appropriate for them or closer to them. So this young girl, 20 years old, drove here from Ohio with a roommate of hers who happened to live in Westchester, so she had someplace to stay. And she had swelling in her face, in her neck, in her torso, in her upper arms, in her legs that was sore and tender to touch. They told her in Ohio she was pregnant. They told her in Ohio she was fat. They told her, she's like, no, you don't understand. This hurts. This is sore. This is tender. And I said to her on the phone, I said, it sounds like systemic lymphedema. I said, I happen to be seeing some more cases of this. I have a 35-year-old male who has systemic lymphedema, who when I started with him, after a few sessions, looked like he lost about 30 pounds. I mean, seriously, that's how much fluid he had in his body. It was like, he was just puffy all over, just puffy. So she was puffy. She came, and from the first visit, I started with her lower extremities, and the puffiness and the tenderness and the pain and the heaviness started to go away. And, I did her whole body. She was here, like I said, for a week. I saw her, I treated her 5 or 6 times. I put her on a detox protocol, and she went back to Ohio. It was like right before 4th of July weekend. So, and then she went to some party and she got COVID. So, it was unfortunate. Yeah.
Oh, no.
But it's very interesting. So I do a cell test for people who come in with lymphatic issues or people who have cancer, because anybody who has a diagnosis of cancer has toxicity in their body. It's the toxins that are causing the cancer. Okay. It doesn't matter whether it's a heavy metal or it's a xenobiotic, a drug, or it's some sort of, like I said, endocrine disruptor. Whatever toxin is in their body, this is what's causing and driving this cancer. But not everybody who has toxicity has cancer. Okay, so they're separate. And I lost my train of thought there for a minute.
Well, we were talking about the systemic lymphedema, and then you were saying, I do a cell test. Right. So I call it the aging analysis, because it really can show me if the cells are aging prematurely, but it also, and if there's any deficiencies that are present, like the cells are missing certain nutrients, the cell test tells me. And is that a blood test?
No. This is a test that's done right in the office. Okay. This is electrodes on the back of the hand and the foot. And I put an electrical impulse in through the body, and it prints out an algorithm. And the algorithm correlates to cell health. It's a really amazing test, and with immediate results. And then I sit down with the patient after I do a thorough history, and we go through the findings. So I can see if their cell membranes are shrinking prematurely. That is the first sign of premature aging of the cell. I can see if the mitochondria function, the powerhouse of the cell, where you get your energy from, is in the toilet. This is why they can't pick their heads off the table, I can take a look at the cell receptors. This is what gets affected with type 2 diabetes. When the receptors lose their sensitivity, this is what's called insulin resistance. So, I can see all of this very clearly. But the biggest thing for toxicity is a shift of fluid from inside the cell to outside the cell. That shift of fluid is indicative of toxicity. And you can see, anywhere from, less than or equal to 1, how much toxicity, what percentage of toxicity is in their body. So you can have 1%, you can have 10%, you can have 100%. The highest number I've ever seen was 79%.
Oh, wow.
And this was a young woman who was being treated for stage 4 colon cancer, who had chemo and radiation, and she was experiencing lymphedema of the ankles and her feet. And she came in, and I treated her, and it went away. All that lymphedema went away. But she had 79% toxicity, and that was from the chemicals, the chemo, right, and the radiation that they had given her, because it's all poison. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have a choice. But anybody who has cancer has toxicity. Those numbers are usually very high, in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, sometimes higher, but somewhere in that range.
And regardless of if they're on chemotherapy, and meaning that before they introduce any kind of treatment, they're usually in those ranges?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the ranges get worse with the treatment, because the treatment is very toxic.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. So, I don't know if this is a good point to insert it, but I want to make sure we get to mammograms and your thoughts around that, because obviously I know there's a lot of people who are for them, then there's, vehemently against them. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that as sort of a standard protocol.
I think that thermographies, the thermal imaging of the breast, is much, much better than a mammography. Mammographies miss a lot of stuff. And thermography can actually show the neogenesis of blood starting, which is what feeds the cancer cells. So, if you can see that early on, there's a problem. You don't see that with a mammography at all. It doesn't exist. Not really. So, yeah, I think thermographies are really the way to go. And also ultrasound and MRIs also, but the radiation mammography just misses a lot.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also the potential for finding stuff that doesn't matter, right? Isn't that, and I'm not super familiar with this argument, but it seems as though that's one of the deals with the sort of, every year getting a mammogram, whether you think you need one or not, is that not only are you exposing to the radiation, it also doesn't catch that many things. So there's like false negatives and a high percentage of false positives to some degree, right?
Right. It's just right. They're not the greatest of tests. They miss a lot. Like I work out a lot. So I have my pec muscles are muscles. You know what I'm saying? So every time when I gotten mammographies, they always call me back, and I have to do an ultrasound because they need to distinguish the muscle from the tissue. And I'm like, it's just muscle. They're like, no. We need to, but like I said, a thermography is, I think, much better, much more accurate, detailed information. And the problem is they're not that expensive. They're $250, but not everybody has that. And they're not covered by insurance. So
right. And then we get into the whole standard of care and what's covered and what's not and all that good stuff. Right.
Please don't get me started on that. Please. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I get crazy.
I also think, and this is not my domain, so to speak, but there was a woman I was listening to, Dr. Christine Northrup, who was actually talking about how we have small cancerous cells that come and go, and that actually, some of the really specific testing, constantly looking for stuff, is maybe not as great as we think, because sometimes we're finding things that maybe our body would naturally deal with. It might, not develop into something more progressive, but then we start introducing, all of the toxicity of the treatments, and then that weakens the immune system, and then maybe the things that would have naturally been absorbed by the body and processed end up having a more toxic effect, because now you're on chemo, now you're on radiation. So I'm curious about your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean that's a big subject,
Right.
and it's really the individual, because some people don't trust alternative or natural medicine or
Mm-hmm.
approaches. They have no listening for that at all.
Yeah.
So whatever the medical profession tells them is what they're going to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have stage 1 trace cancer, you need to have a lumpectomy done. They need to map you to see, if you need chemo and or radiation. If they don't do the chemo, they're definitely going to do the radiation. At least the radiation is much more pinpoint these days. It's much more specific. They're not irradiating the whole body. They're not burning all the tissue. You can still get burned, but it's not as badly as it used to be. And then they put you on drugs that cause other problems and can cause other kinds of cancer. So, I mean, like I said, it's really up. I see patients who choose the alternate route. They choose not to go with chemo and radiation. And that is all they are offered in the medical profession. It doesn't matter who they go to. That's it. Chemo and radiation. Chemo and radiation. That's it. You got to do this. Otherwise, you're going to die.
Oh yeah, no, I've actually never, I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but my mom was diagnosed with super early stage 1. I don't even remember the name. I want to say in situ or something. Like it's like,
in situ, right.
In situ. Yeah. Right. Like it's very, just the very early stages of it. I mean, they wanted mastectomy. They wanted several of the lymph nodes removed. They wanted her on tamoxifen for 5 years, radiation, the whole thing. And I sat in the room with her as she told them no. And it was crazy to see how pressed she was to accept this treatment protocol from them.
Right.
And she took the alternative route. She has been cancer-free now 10 or more years.
However long ago that was.
Probably 15 years now, with her breast and with her lymph nodes and with everything still in her body. And so I hear you on that. I was caving, and I knew a lot about this stuff, and I was caving to the doctors like, Mom, maybe you should just do it. They seem they're so intimidating. It's a really intimidating process.
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. They're adamant and they're intimidating, because they don't know anything else. They don't know any other way. So that's it. This is the way. It's my way or the highway. Sorry. Because they have no awareness, just like what I do, the Lymph-Biologics, the fact that you can actually move the lymph fluid, you can actually get rid of all the pain and the pressure and the heaviness and the tightness, and you can get rid of the toxicity that's causing this stagnation. They have no idea that this exists. They don't know. And, my heart aches because there are people who are suffering needlessly. There are people who are in pain. I had a 61-year-old African-American woman who came in with stage 4 breast cancer that it was eating through the tissue. You could see it externally. She waited a little too long. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and I met the head of breast cancer surgery and oncology at Columbia Presbyterian because she had seen him. And the organization, the cancer organization that she was working with, the head of the organization called me to say, listen, we have this patient. She's in a lot of pain. Nobody can help her. You think you can help? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, send her in. I'll take a look. Let me see what I can do. She came in, and from a scale of 1 to 10, her pain was at a 20. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Laid her down, did my lymph treatment on her, did a thorough history, did a cell test. She was toxic as all get out. Did my lymph drainage on her, 45 minutes to an hour. She got up off the table. She went from a 20 to a 2.
Wow.
These were her words. She's like, and what was the only thing that she kept saying to me? What was the only question that she kept asking me? She kept asking me, why? Why didn't anybody tell her about this? And I'm like, because they don't know. I said, it's your job to now go out and tell everybody that you come in contact with that you're doing this treatment and that it's effective and how much pain you were in and how much better you felt even after a single treatment. The next day, she was starting chemo. So she told the chemo doctor, she's like, oh my God, it's like, I went to see a doctor yesterday. I was in so much pain, and she did this lymph drainage, not lymph massage, but lymph drainage. And I feel so much better. And the doctor was like, that's nice, dear. You know,
right.
Well,
right.
that wasn't it. It must have been something else.
Yeah.
Exactly, you know what I mean?
Oh, did you have Cheerios? It must have been the Cheerios. Yeah.
Hey, you know, and I said, because she came back that Friday after the chemo, and I'm like, yeah, listen, that's the problem. You know, people need to be open to listening. There are things out there that you haven't learned yet. There are ways of dealing and treating with patients that you just haven't learned, or that you're not aware of, or that you haven't experienced. It doesn't mean that it's any less effective, or that it isn't, a meaningful treatment, or that it works. You know, and there are studies behind this. There are studies behind, like I said, I told people about the fact that I believe there were toxicity hanging out in the breast tissue, and everybody looked at me like I had 6 heads. And then in 2014, there was a study done, and it was published in the Huffington Post that tested women's breast tissue, and the tissue tested positive for 17 different dangerous chemicals that all cause cancer and autoimmune disease. And I went, oh my God, look at that. I'm smarter than I look. Look, this is real. This is, my theory is not a theory anymore. It's true. And I started banging my drum really loud.
Yeah. Well, as you should. You know, it's interesting because I'm hearing you talk about this device, and I'm like, this is a device that everyone needs in every home. This is, it's almost like a preemptive strike against everything that we're up against as humans. I'm like, can you like package this and make this available in everyone's home?
Yeah. Like a pill would be awesome.
Right.
Right. The thing is that it really is a 2-part treatment. You have to get rid of the toxicity. You have to, you know what I mean? The long-term relief only comes with removing the toxins. So figuring out what type of toxicity, whether it's an environmental sensitivity, whether it's a medication, whether it's a food sensitivity, like I said, whether it's some sort of heavy metal, you need to figure out, maybe it's leaky gut, you know what I mean? Which is very prevalent. So that needs to be shored up, and the toxins have to be removed in order for this to be really effective, and for people to, get better for long term. So they're not attached to me at the hip.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just keep poisoning the well. So on that front, I mean, this is something that I've had a little bit of experience with, in having to sort of monitor the speed of weight loss in folks who are obese and have been for a while, because, the adipose tissue, the fat, stores some amount of these heavy metals and toxins, right? And so as you're metabolizing all of that, the body's then having to deal with it, right? So we do some liver support and some kind of like phase 2 liver metabolism boosting to make sure that everything's, moving in the right direction. And I'm curious, because I could just imagine with somebody that has kind of the systemic inflammation or lymphedema going on, that there might be some of that going on as well, right? I mean, that's a lot for your body to work through, right? So how do you support people with that?
Well, the liver is the main detoxifying powerhouse. Okay. So it's important to eat foods, that optimize the health of the liver and supply you with, as many vitamins and minerals as possible. So, I try to tell people, first and foremost, you want to avoid white foods, WHITE. Just avoid white foods, except for cauliflower. So,
White gets a pass.
White dairy, white, milk, white bread, white sugar, white flour, white potatoes. You want to eat fruits and vegetables that are colorful. You want those cyanocobalamin. You want those antioxidants. They're very, very important for liver detoxification. And you want to try to eat as many organic or naturally clean fruits and vegetables as possible. Things like garlic contain sulfur, and it's essential for supporting the liver, and it activates enzymes, responsible for flushing out the toxins and the waste of the body. Garlic also contains selenium, which is an important mineral and nutrient to assist detoxification. And Brazil nuts also have selenium in them. And garlic supports the thyroid gland. So again, metabolism comes back to, foods that you eat and liver detoxification. Citrus fruits, very, very important. Lemons, limes, grapefruits, all good natural sources of vitamin C. But they're all potent antioxidants. Like garlic, citrus fruits have the ability to boost the production of liver and detoxify all the enzymes. You have cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. They also contain sulfur compounds, just like garlic, and they help to support the detoxification process and the health of the liver. And in fact, these fibrous vegetables can help flush out toxins from your gut. Okay, so not just your liver, but also the leaky gut that we spoke about. Cruciferous vegetables are important to support the liver and metabolizing hormones. Things like a fruit like avocado, incredible because it contains glutathione, which is a very, very powerful antioxidant, and it helps to, again, protect the liver, incoming waste and toxins. It assists in liver in eliminating the chemicals from your body, and it protects against cellular damage. So avocados are very cool, Leafy vegetables.
As Californians we're getting ready to move to Wyoming. We're like, one of the things we're most sad about leaving is our avocados.
Oh, wow. Wyoming is nice. Wyoming is pretty.
Yeah, we're going to Jackson Hole, so it'll be nice.
Sky country. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Totally.
Bitter leafy vegetables. Okay, so for the liver, the bitter, the better. Okay, so just, it loves bitter vegetables, dandelion, rapinis, arugula, mustard greens, chicory. The leafy greens contain numerous cleansing compounds that neutralize heavy metals and can slow down the liver's ability to detoxify. So leafy greens, things like turmeric, okay, very, very important because this is an incredible herb that contains a boatload of antioxidants that help to repair liver cells. It protects against cellular damage. It assists in detoxification. It helps to remove inflammation. It's particularly good in helping the liver detox from heavy metals, again, and assists in hormone metabolism. Turmeric also boosts the production of bile and improves the health of the gallbladder, which is good because the gallbladder can get very sticky and you get dehydrated and you form gallstones and, it's.
What do you think about supplementing with turmeric?
Or like
I supplement with turmeric all the time. Right. And the thing is that turmeric, you need a good therapeutic dose is about 2,000 milligrams 3 times a day. So most of the capsules are about 500 milligram capsules. So you're talking about 4 capsules 3 times a day. I know it sounds like a lot, but you really need to get into a therapeutic level with the turmeric in order for it to truly, truly be effective for what's going on.
Interesting.
It makes a huge difference. I see a lot of young girls, okay, just as an aside, this has nothing to do with turmeric. I see a lot of young girls. A lot of 20-something, early 30-something year olds who come in with all this acne and they're cranky and, they have bad periods and they have PMS and they have too much estrogen in their system. They have what we call estrogen dominance.
Right.
And I put them on cruciferous. I put them on a supplement that is a Meta I3C, which is an indole-based product, which is cruciferous vegetables, and I put them on some soy supplements because they block the estrogen. They block the estrogen receptor. So the receptors stop picking up all this extra estrogen that's in the body. And the soy does the same thing. Soy is a fabulous adaptogen. When there's too much, it makes less. And when there's not enough, it helps you make more. And it gets the acne goes away. It's amazing. You know what I mean? These girls have been suffering and they're doing all this stuff to their skin, the laser and these peels, and they're ruining their skin. Beautiful young girls. And, all they need is supplements for a few months and all better. Seriously, all better. My stepdaughter was having, some acne issues. And her mother kept yelling at her that she wasn't washing her face. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think she's washing her face. I think she has I said, would you trust me? I said, I think she's having a little hormone imbalance. She's 15 years old. It's that time where your hormones are getting a little wacky. And I put her on Indole because my soy product is back ordered, just the Indole. And her face is cleared up beautifully. I'm like, oh, look, your face looks so much better. She's like, yeah. So she's happy.
Would that apply to people who have heavy periods as well, who are, have, especially in their first few days of their period?
It depends. You know what I mean? There are other symptoms that go along with estrogen dominance. Some heavy flow does not necessarily mean you have too much estrogen. So, because actually that is progesterone. I'm sorry. That is, the lining of the uterus sloughing and getting ready for, implantation for the next round. It could just be that's how it is for somebody. So yeah,
okay.
You can certainly try it. It's not going to hurt you. I'll put it to you that way. But there are other symptoms and a little more history, and then I could tell you definitely yes, no. So have them call me, and I'll tell them immediately.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. This is so cool. It's obviously we touch a lot on a lot of the foods and a lot of the supplements and just the things that you're talking about for detoxification. But I just love that there's some of these new protocols are coming forth, and I hope that you'll be able to get this machine nationwide. And my next question is kind of what do women do in the meantime? Maybe they're not sick enough to come see you, or they don't have something that is really pressing enough to come see you, but they're going, all right, I want to take care of my breast health. I want to try to detoxify. Is there anything in terms of massage or anything tactily they can do to help move this stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the whole point. The point is that any woman who has lumpy, bumpy, tender breasts, whether it's a hormonal imbalance and, it's only at the time of their period, or this is something that exists all the time because they have other toxicities in their system. And a hormonal imbalance is a toxin, okay? Your hormones are, too high and they're toxic levels. That's why you're experiencing these symptoms to such a degree. So yes, first of all, women need to drink clean water. Okay, lots and lots of water. You need to drink about half your body weight in ounces. And most people don't do that. They don't drink anywhere near the amount of water that they should. They think that they drink a liter or two and it's like, oh, that's fine. But really, you should drink half your body weight in ounces of water. The other thing is that breathing, deep breathing techniques, contain 3 times So your body contains 3 times more lymph fluid than blood. So deep breathing can do the pumping action that's needed for flow and transportation of the lymph fluid and the toxins. So, you can get rid of them. Exercise is very key. Like you said, because the lymph has no pump, regular exercise ensures a healthy lymphatic system. One of the best choices is rebounding, jumping on a small trampoline. Very, very good for lymph. Hot and cold showers. Okay. Hot shower causes the vessels to dilate, and a cold shower causes the vessels to shrink. And it causes, again, a pumping action. We call this contrast therapy, hot and cold. And it serves as a pumping force for the lymph system. Dry brushing is one of my favorite things, okay? So, and it's just exactly what it sounds. It's a dry brush that you can do. I like doing it in the shower just because it's easy, and small circular motions with a brush, and you start from your fingertips and you go all the way down your arm and you go towards your chest and you get your breast. It's always up back towards the heart. You do the same thing with your toes, and you do the front of your foot, and you do the back of your foot, and you do your leg, and you do your thigh and your hamstrings, and you get in there to your groin and your little private parts, and up your belly, all the way up back to the heart. So it's always up back towards the heart. Then you do the other side. You do the left side. You do the right side, and, always up back to the heart. So dry brushing is a great way to move lymph fluid, especially if you have some swelling and inflammation that's present. It really, really makes a difference. So, lymph massage is not a favorite of mine. Okay. And a couple of reasons. So first of all, you have to go every day for 30 days, and they wrap you up like a mummy. And in the middle of the night, you rip the wrapping off because you're in so much pain, because fluid accumulates at night when we're sleeping. There's a fluid exchange that goes on in the body. It's called imbibition, just a big word for osmosis, okay? But fluid, all the connective tissue, the ligaments, the tendons, the discs, all fill with fluid at night when we're sleeping. So that limb that you push the fluid out of fills at night. And that ACE wrapping is torturous, and nobody can keep it on. And it doesn't address the toxicity. It doesn't do anything to remove the toxins. They say that, they can pump and, move. I don't think so. Okay. You can't get in to the lymph ducts. You can't get into the thoracic lymph duct. You can't get into the cisterna chyli that is in your truncal region. Are the ducts that drain the lymph fluid. Nobody would let you get in there without screaming off the table. And if those are blocked with toxicity, there's no way you're going to push through, those toxins by doing lymph massage. So it doesn't happen. So I'm not the biggest fan of lymph massage. If you have nothing else, if there's nothing else available, then absolutely, and it can reduce the circumference. Okay. It can reduce the circumference of a limb that is enlarged. But again, the heaviness and the fullness and the tightness and the lumbering of that limb doesn't go away. Okay. That's the underlying,
right. And whatever the underlying issue is not really being addressed.
Exactly. Doesn't go away. So, and the same thing with acupuncture. I like acupuncture, but it's, you can move some of the energy, but it's not going to really make a huge difference with, lymphedema. It may get rid of some of the discomfort, but not for a long period of time. It'll come back.
It's really interesting. I'm in the middle of my Kundalini teacher training, and it's interesting to think about a lot of the movements, a lot of the breath work, and a lot of the teachings discuss this kind of thing, like really moving the glandular system, really moving the energy and pumping the heart, pumping the energy through the system to kind of circulate this stuff out. And it's just interesting to hear it on your side, because it's kind of coming together, like how important it is to really kind of take command over the systems of your body and have different things that you can do in order to sort of move the frequencies and the fluid and the breath, and just really get yourself, pumping. And I love that you're putting this, it's like perfect timing for me to be hearing this at the same time I'm sort of doing this in a little more esoteric version of it.
Sure.
But it's like,
no, absolutely.
It's awesome. So, I can't believe we're already up on an hour, we want to be respectful of your time. So please tell the listeners, where they can find you, how they can reach out to you, where they can learn more, all of that good stuff.
Sure. So it's Dr. Loretta Friedman, Friedman. I'm in Manhattan on 14th Street and 5th Avenue. My practice is Synergy with an S, Health Associates, also with an S, plural. And it's synergyhealthassociates.com. I'm all over Instagram with, again, Synergy Health Associates, all kinds of videos and me telling and talking about lymph drainage and, what people can do to take care of themselves. And where else are we? Oh, and on my website. Yeah, that's about it. I'm not. You can call the office, right? 212-243, right? 212-243-5515. It's Dr. Loretta, Dr. Loretta, Loretta, at Dr. spelled out, Doctor Loretta, Loretta.com. And people go on the website. The thing is that my website, synergyhealthassociates.com, has a breast health quiz on it. that women take all the time, and whatever they score, we get back to them to tell them where they are, in terms of their score. So under 30%, over 50%, and what it is that's possible for them, and if they should call the office or if they should think about doing some sort of detox. I also do a lot of virtual appointments, so telemedicine, and set up detox protocols for individuals all over the world. It was amazing when COVID hit because, you got to understand something. 10 million people suffer with lymphedema here in this country, in the United States. There are more people that suffer from lymphedema than suffer from muscular dystrophy, ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, and AIDS. Okay, wow. So there 10 million people suffer from lymphedema in the United States. And to be honest with you, I never really thought about the global implications of lymphedema. I don't know. I mean, call me silly. So, and all of a sudden, I started getting emails and text messages from people in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, in South Africa, in all over India, in England, in Australia, all over the world. I was like, oh my God, I've been contacted by well over 250, almost 300 people, and I don't do anything. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm advertising this stuff. They find me online. They're researching, looking for help, and they stumble across me, and I respond to them. That's why I said I talk to everybody, because nobody can give them answers. They have simple questions, and it's like they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And, a lot of times it's just easing their anxiety. They can't come in to see me. They're either too far away or they can't afford it. But I tell them it's okay. You know what I mean? It's like, just, wait a few days. Let's see what happens. The results of the test come back. Do you have any dental issues? It's probably a dental. Go see your dentist. That's what's causing the lymph node in your neck or in your upper thoracic to be swollen. And but they don't know who to talk to or who to ask.
Right.
So yeah, it's really So this is a global problem. This is not just national. This is international, and I was just floored by it. So,
Well, I mean, inflammation is just like, it's kind of I feel like the cornerstone to everything these days. And so I'm not surprised actually to hear these numbers, because we just see systemic inflammation on all levels, all ranges, all disease states is just
absolutely
more present
Vanessa,
than ever.
Vanessa, you said it. So what I tell my patients is that it doesn't matter what you call the disease, and it doesn't matter what the symptoms are. It all starts with inflammation. That is what they're doing with COVID now. Now they're treating COVID with dexamethasone, with heavy-duty steroids and heavy-duty anti-inflammatories, because it's a virus, but it doesn't matter. It all starts with inflammation in the body. And then the symptoms come, and then the disease promotes itself. So, it took them long enough to figure it out. Meanwhile, I'm here screaming, it's inflammation. It's inflammation.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Loretta. This has been so informative. And I know some folks will be reaching out to you, and we'll be so grateful to have you as that resource.
Listen, the best of luck in Big Sky Country. And,
hey, thank you.
Have fun. So enjoy yourselves. And thank you both so much for having me. I really am grateful to get the information out to people. People need to know that they have some options and they have some choices, that, it isn't all one way. So thanks.
Yeah, I really appreciate that message. All right, folks, that is a wrap, and we will see you guys next week. And that's it, folks. I hope you guys got something out of that. We certainly enjoyed the conversation, and I think there's some pearls of wisdom in there and some completely actionable things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have enjoyed this podcast and any others that you've listened to or will listen to in the future, please head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. Say something nice if you feel like it.
Yeah.
And we always just so appreciate when we get that positive feedback, and it helps us to book awesome guests and to bring you this helpful information that we know is meaningful to so many out there. So it would be meaningful to us if you leave us a review.
Bam.
Bam. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.